Welcome back. Now we're going to take the data that we gathered from the CIA World Factbook and put it into Geogebra and graph it as a scatter plot. So let me pop over to Geogebra right now. First thing I want to do is open up my spreadsheet view. So I go to View, Spreadsheet, and here it is, and I like to stretch it over. So you just hover over the edge and drag it. And we're going to put a few columns in here. So this is going to be countries, or just a label, country, not county, country. And population, say pop, and exports. And your subjects will be different. You can graph whatever you want. Obesity rate versus internet usage. I don't know. You can pick anything you want. And I like to drag and click and drag and make these columns a little bigger. And Australia. And I'll go ahead and fill this in and then pause the video. Okay, now that I have this entered, I want to fix the data a little bit. This is population was in billions. I'm going to add a couple more columns here. So I want to compare like things to like things. So if this is the GDP per capita, so that's like per person. I also want to compare the dollars of export per person. Does that make sense? So this is in billions, and this is in millions of people. So I'm going to do exports per capita. Okay, so I would say equals. Now I'm going to multiply. This is in billions, so I'm going to say take whatever's in this cell times 1 billion. So that's 3 zeros is 1,000, another 3 zeros is 1,000,000, another 3 zeros is 1,000,000,000. So I think that's right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah. Alright, so also after I multiply by 1 billion, I want to divide by the population, so I get it per person. So the population was cell B2, and that was in millions, so I'm going to take B2 times 1 million. So 3 is 1,000, another 3 is 1 million. Alright, so I get 11,800 be the export dollars per capita. So that makes a little bit more sense if I compare per capita to per capita. So that's why I included the population, and that's the way that you do it. Is you need to figure out what it is in millions or billions, and then you're gonna convert that over. Okay, so I'm gonna copy that formula down to all those columns, and now I just go in the corner of that column. Oops, cancel. I just go in the corner of that column and hover over the corner until it turns into a plus, and then I click and drag it down, and then I'll copy the formula. So now if I look in here, double click, it is taking C5, which is the correct row, C5, 318, multiplying it by 1 billion, and then dividing it by the population, which is that times 1,000,000, and it makes it the right quantity. Okay, so cancel. So what I want to do now is graph on a scatter plot all of these points. So this is the GDP per capita compared to the export. Now it depends on what axis I want to be, which one. So do I want the GDP per capita to be the x-axis and export to be the y-axis? I guess so. So I just select those, and it's going to be ordered pairs. This is like x and y, and now I just right-click on it and say create list of points. And now it's put the list of points onto the graph. Let me scale this down. Now you don't see them because this is 1 through 6, and I need to go up to a couple thousand, right? My biggest number is 52,000, and my smallest number is 257. Okay, so let me just zoom out. So if I hold down the shift key, I can drag it, click and drag, and then for zoom you can go to these, or move, you can go to that. So I'm going to zoom out, zoom out, zoom out, zoom, click and drag. Still got a way to go. There's 1 point. So, am I to 52,000 yet? Hmm. 52,000 should have a point up here. E. Oh, that's right. 52,000 this way. Okay, so let me zoom back in. Okay, this axis is the GDP per capita, and this axis is the exports. Okay. Now you can do fancy things like rename the point. So let's say point A was Australia. I'm gonna just do one of these and then speed up the video. So you go to right click object properties, and then under the name I can say Australia. Okay. Okay, we're back. I renamed all the points to match up with which country they represent. Now sometimes your axes will be very out of scale. So like you may have like one thing in percent and another thing in per capita. So the way you can adjust that is to hold down the shift key, and then you can drag on top of the axes, and it will scale it out like that. So that might be something you need to do. Mine looks okay like this. Okay, the next thing I want to do is to fit a line. So I could approximate a line just drawing it, but GeoGebra has a nice function where I can automatically fill it in. Okay, so now I'm going to type into the input bar fit line, and then on the fit line I'm going to do a square bracket, and then I put in my list of points. And my list of points is when I did the right click create list of points, it automatically created a list for me by the name list1. So I just type that in, list1, and there's my line. So, and it gives me the equation line right there. See this in the algebra view, it says line A, which is y equals 0.22x plus 83.42. So this is my initial condition. So if I said if a country had no, what's 0 for this? This is GDP per capita. If they had no GDP per capita, I'd still expect them to export $83 per person. That's interesting. Okay. So what can I say about this graph? I can say, well, the USA gets a lot of gross domestic product per capita for not a lot of exports, right? We don't export a lot compared to how much money we get, and I guess that has to do with the fact that our economy is more based on services, that we work in the banking and you know, services as far as retail and things like that. What else can I say? Well, Germany has this is a surprising amount of exports per capita. So looks like they have a good export economy. Japan is similar to the U.S. in that sense. They have more of a service economy. And then India, you can see, has a low income per capita and a low export per capita. I guess that's, and China is kind of in the same boat. It's a very populated country, so they have a lot of people. So per individual, they're not producing a lot of money, but overall, you can see that the number was actually China had the most exports, right? China was point number 3, row 4. You can see that China had the highest number of exports, but since they have so many people, they appear pretty low on this graph. So that's a few things I could say about this graph. You'll make your own conjectures in your own project and try to make some conjectures about what does it mean to be on this side of the line. What does it mean about the country to be in the low range or the high range?